Hi everyone, it's Claire from the Yoga Chapel. This is Self-Care with Claire, and I've got Terran here. Terran's going to introduce herself. I'm just going to give you a little bit of information of what we're doing as I touch my face, COVID. We've thrown lipstick on because we're trying to pull our shit together. It's a difficult time for everybody, and sometimes that helps. I will suggest the Green Hair Spa is selling these amazing lipsticks. Is that what you're wearing too, Terran? Oh, I can't hear you.
I muted myself so that you didn't have to listen to me breathe. No, I don't actually know what lipstick I'm wearing. It's the one.
It's just pull your shit together lipstick. It's like perfect. So we're talking today with Terran. She is a
mind body health expert and slow lifestyle advocate.
And has a lot of information on our brain and our stress responses in our brain, and being a little bit more scientific of what's actually going on inside our heads at this particular time. So I am going to pass it on to Terran. I might jump in and ask some questions, maybe elaborate, like what the fuck is that, or what are you talking about, and don't be so smart and explain it to the rest of us. So I'll let you introduce yourself, Terran, and give a little bit of synopsis of, what you're trying to do and blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Cool.
Right on.
So, hi. So I wanted to talk about a few things today, but I'll start by reiterating I'm Terran. I am Terran V Shaver on Instagram and Facebook. And I study mind body healing, mind body health, and mostly what that means is I study the stress response. Because our stress response is implicated in every level of health and well-being and mental health and well-being. I set out just kind of trying to find my own answers about mind body healing with my own health issues, and it launched what is now a whole career looking at what mind body health is. And I mean, I don't think it would have been my choice to study stress specifically, but that's where all the research is. And so it's kind of primed me to have an understanding of what's going on right now. There's a lot of stress going on.
What? There's stress? What's happening? Did I miss something? Small thing?
Just a little. There's some stress going on right now.
Some stress. Okay, great.
Yeah. So something that always has comforted me and always does comfort me is looking at the science and just understanding kind of what's going on in my brain and in my body. And I don't know, that has always given me a little bit of comfort, a little bit of a stepping stone or a solid baseline from which to gauge the rest of what's going on. So I want to talk a little bit about what we know about trauma and what we know about stress and what that means in your mind and body, and then how you can kind of tap into that to cope better with it. Little unconventional, but I'm actually more and more, the more I do this, the less I want to talk about stress reduction, and more I want to talk about befriending your stress systems and befriending your stress response and kind of understanding what's happening, because you don't really get to opt out of stress as a human being in the world. If you haven't had a lot of stress in your life up till this point, you're doing great. It's probably a lot of.
And stress can look like lots of different things, right? Like my stress is actually not feeling anything at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Exactly. Or walking around in circles, or feeling a little bit lost. And also, it's okay not to, correct me if I'm wrong, it's okay to really not know what the fuck is happening.
Yeah, totally. And that's
minute to minute,
day to day, hour to hour. And that's, I think, kind of where this idea of befriending your stress response has come into play for me really hard in the last week or so, where it's like we're in the middle of it. We're in it. You don't get to just be like, oh no, actually I'm just going to be okay for today. Like it's not realistic. And so looking at ways you can notice when stress is happening in your body and notice when stress is happening in your habits, and kind of befriend that or be a little kinder with yourself for that is kind of where I'm at now in what I'm trying to teach and what I'm trying to practice in my own life
Awesome.
too. So
Great.
yeah, we can go like straight into the science, but in a cool way. Love science.
Well, I did tell Terran that I drew a little picture. It's super realistic. If anybody needs an art person, call me. I'm doing
too.
shit and you pay me. I'm not. But when I was I was reading this amazing book about actually the heart. It was like, it's a book from the 2000s at a garage sale where I find most of my most amazing books. But it was people who were leaving from heart attacks, and they weren't just talking about cholesterol and eggs and shit. They also disproved all of that. And they were saying that we need to understand stress. So that's why I brought you in too, to talk about what's literally happening in our brain. Like, we have responses that we can't control, and then there's responses that we can control.
Yeah.
So just giving me like a little understanding. It kept on talking about like, the reptilian brain, and then like the outer cortex, and those principles, and how maybe we can, by understanding those things, know that, we're all in the same, our brains are all acting pretty much the same.
Yeah. So what I think is really interesting about like that model of the brain where we talk about the reptilian brain, it's actually like a triune brain theory is what it's called. And it's this idea that we had like our original brain, which was our reptilian brain or our lizard brain. We hear jokes about that all the time. And it's kind of our base instincts, our fight, our flight, our feed. Our mate is the other.
Is the other F word?
Is the other F there. And so, yeah, we've conceptualized it that way. It's not a totally accurate way to frame things, but it's a good like working model of how the brain is working for you. But then above and beyond that lizard brain is our limbic brain, which we think developed next. And that's where we start to see social bonding and social patterns and emotional bonding. And what's really interesting for me and what I do is that at the same time that those kind of mammalian emotional bonds were developing, our kind of other system responses were developing alongside that. And so we have this amazing tie between what's happening in our social and emotional world and what's happening in the major systems in our body, kind of in that limbic part of the brain. Again, this is like kind of reeling it all back to its most simple
It's
form.
okay. We could go as simple as possible.
But it is a nice.
I didn't get my doctorate yet, but we've got time. So.
I mean, me neither. So
I mean,
maybe one day they'll lift tuition fees. And
man, those can be free. You're like, let's go to Harvard. It's fine.
Yeah, actually. But looking at kind of that lizard brain and that limbic brain, I think what's really interesting right now is in our limbic system, the things that are often the best to heal us or to help us get through is our social network and our social support. And right now we've very literally been cut off from that.
Right, yeah.
We can still FaceTime like this or Zoom or whatever. But ultimately, like being present with other humans who we trust and who are safe for us is an enormous thing that we use to cope with stress. And not having that right now, I think means that our other coping mechanisms need to really come in a lot stronger.
So like even touch, like some people are, never mind not seeing other people.
Yeah.
Not being touched, not hugging, not holding hands.
Yeah.
If you're in a relationship, you have those aspects still with that one other person.
Yeah.
But I think that's what I'm finding most difficult in this is like, I'm a hugger. Like that's like, I find it very difficult not like, I thought about it the other day. I'm like, I don't think I've touched another human being in obviously weeks, right?
Yeah. And that's a necessary social coping mechanism that a lot of us fall back on and a lot of us need to fall back on.
Yeah. So what could we do instead of like touch yourself?
Well, you can you can hug yourself. You can also use things like weighted blankets have been shown to be pretty effective. Obviously with our shopping supply chain being a bit different than it usually is. You can just pile blankets instead of having an actual weighted blanket.
Okay.
You can hug yourself. You can hold your own hands. You can also, like, this is a little woo-woo, but like break down the idea that that affection needs to come from a certain person or a certain place. Like, if you're completely alone quarantining, yes, definitely. But if you're with your family, like, there are, like, be physical with your family. That sounds like, I guess, a bit foreign to us, but like there
Right.
is
Right.
platonic intimacy that does exist.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it seems to have really gone away in our culture, and as we get older, I think it goes away. So leaning into that in different ways, I think, is important. Also, things like braces. I have a back brace that I wear sometimes for my posture, and it feels really comforting and nice. And it's a physical thing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, and
Right.
getting
Okay.
creative with that, right?
Those are interesting. Like the weighted blankets, I definitely see that for sure. Hugging
Yeah.
yourself, feel it's like that response, right? Like smile and you feel happier.
Yeah.
Put lipstick on and you've got your shit together,
You feel a
that
little
sort of
put
thing.
together.
So,
Yeah.
right. Like in the war, women wore red lipstick all the time.
Yeah.
It made them feel like they were still part of this society.
Yeah.
I think right now what I'm struggling with is, we had huge things that happened like World War I, World War II, but we had connection. So this war that we're having is a zero connection war.
Yeah.
And I think most people, even introverts, people that love to be on their own, are noticing that, like, human connection, even to, our baristas that we miss very much, that connection.
Hi, Stratford.
Yes, Stratford, it's
We
the
miss
best.
you.
We miss you so much. I just miss
Yeah.
simple, and I think also this is a really great time to realize that it's these simple things that are
Yeah.
so important.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've been talking a lot this week about how crisis is a clarifying thing, even if it's, maybe we didn't want that clarity.
Yeah.
But there it is, right? And
I think it's been super important. I think
yeah.
Yeah, it's been super important. So other than so we've got the blankets that we could do for the physical need for touch or
Yeah.
weight or whatever. So what else is the limbic brain saying that we can help with our stress
Yeah,
response?
so in the limbic system, it is really a lot social. So I'm not going to say a whole lot about that. Something I would caution against is there is some evidence to suggest that your brain can't differentiate between a face on a screen and a face in real life,
Okay.
or can't totally differentiate those things. So I would say, I know we hear this all the time, but limiting your social media time is like, please limit your social media time, and above and beyond that, limit your news source time, because seeing other faces, strangers' faces, is kind of overwhelming for our limbic system at the best of times. Seeing strangers' faces and unknown faces in a traumatic state, or who are suffering and we don't have any means to deal with it, is just like heartbreaking.
Right.
I would use that almost quite literally. So limiting how often you're checking in with news sources, what news sources you're checking in with. You don't need to know what's happening worldwide. It's good to keep maybe a once a week kind of touchstone on what's happening worldwide, but I would really encourage looking to local news sources. So
Right.
you're on
Some people that you recognize and that you trust.
well, and just like making that social concern circle smaller.
Okay.
Right. And that's not to kind of invalidate or ignore this massive global thing that's happening, but just on a day-to-day, you don't need to know all the details worldwide. It's okay to just check your local news source.
Right.
And I would say it's much better for your brain to just check your local news source.
So
right?
would you say like Zoom, like doing Zoom with friends,
Yeah.
helps too with that social connection?
Yeah, definitely. Being able to see familiar faces in a social context and laugh and smile and those things are awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also like join your local yoga chapel or other fitness places.
Yeah.
If you're going to do fitness, do it with people that you recognize, because that will also help your limbic
Totally.
brain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
So
a plug, but a plug.
a little plug, but it's the right one, right? And I'm
Okay.
seeing so many people really engaging in this kind of global conversation, which if you have the bandwidth or the capacity for that right now, definitely get involved, see what you can do. But if you're really struggling, like scale it back. Look at just the
Cool.
city you're in, the news there, or Worldometer is a great site. It's tracking the numbers worldwide, but it's very kind of just the data. There's no angle, there's no emotive anything, there's no faces, it's just the data. So worldometer.com, I think it is.
Worldometer. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Or for where we are, the Here in Perth Health
19 or something, I think it's called.
hpph.com.
Okay.
.ca, and it's just for Huron Perth, and it's just the news for Huron Perth, and it's the same. It's like by the numbers, facts, and updates. It's not this big like bombastic CNN,
Great.
ABC. I don't watch the news because it's so bombastic. Like shop.
And what's so also divisive. It's still, we have a divisive platforms, because what did someone say to me, like blood cells or something, like
well, it's designed to be sensational. It's designed to make the parts of your brain that want to be
if it bleeds, it leads. That was it.
If it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah,
that's real though, because it's designed to make those parts of your brain that are programmed for fear and safety and connection light up in big ways. It's like specifically made to do that. So disconnecting not from the news, but from the newsreel, I think is really important for protecting those
because our brain likes or reacts so heavily to those things that it gets addictive, but it's not good for our mental health.
Totally. And I saw a great graphic yesterday. I wish I could remember where I saw it, but explaining that there's almost like an addictive property to the news reel where you go to it for answers. It gives you those answers, but then it exacerbates other concerns. And so you either disengage and withdraw, but then you want more information, so you go back. And this pattern goes over and over and over again. And it becomes like, I need to know the next detail. I need to know the next detail. I need to know the next detail. And while you do need to be informed, you don't need
all the details.
You don't need 24 hours of news media. You don't. Like, yeah.
Okay.
So
I'll just like frame it. So for comfort for our reptilian brain, like a weighted blanket, and for our lymphatic or our limbic brain, connections with people we already know. So that comforted faces that are around us.
Yeah.
Connection with our friends on Zoom, to actually see their faces, not just to hear them, is important. To see facial expressions and recognition and smiles and put lipstick on and do the fucking yoga sometimes if you feel like it.
Have a reason to get dressed, even if it's only your top half. Like, I am wearing pants.
What's happening underneath?
Full disclosure, I am wearing pants. But no,
full disclosure, I am too.
Something that's such a blessing, I think, right now is that we have this technology to connect with each other in these ways. You brought up kind of, past occurrences that we can kind of compare this to, like other world wars or other pandemics. And I do think actually we have more resources than we ever have to deal with that. I've been thinking so much about my grandpa, who lost his brother to smallpox and then lived through the Great Depression and fought in World War II. And he wouldn't have been able to Skype his friends and neighbors. He would talk a lot about everyone on the block not having a job and what that was like. And it was very much like you stuck to your home, you stuck to your family, you stuck to who you knew. So I think leaning into the technologies and the solutions that we don't have, that we do have, is incredible. And the fact that we have those, and maybe even, you know, practicing a little gratitude that like, this can happen, this is amazing, right?
Yeah. I think this is the first time since the internet that we've used it in the right way.
Except for the news media, right? It's always been,
except for the news media.
Yeah, it's always been what you use it for, I think. And I think getting really serious and really clear about what you're engaging with online is a huge thing right now.
I think as a species we're adaptable. We're already like, it's only been 2 weeks maybe max since this, you know, we've been told to stand apart and social isolate and physical distance and all of these tag words that, you know, now is the norm.
Yeah.
I go out in the world and I don't even know when, like, I don't know how I would feel when it's okay to touch people. Yeah. You know, it's going to be, but we're so adaptable, it will just happen again.
Yeah. And that's, if there's anything I believe in, it's human resilience and adaptability. Like I talk about that all the time, is like, we are made to be resilient to so many things.
So many things. And we're doing it really well. Like most of us are doing it really well. It's the only thing I do really worry about, other than the coronavirus, is mental health.
Yeah.
And we're not talking what's not being advertised, and correct me if I'm wrong, is how to stay healthy during this time and how to help our mental health.
Yeah.
Because I don't think those ones are being expressed as much as they should. And I understand why, that it is an immediate need to like wash your hands, stay away from people. But even the common cold is going to come in if we don't have a good immune system. Yeah. And I think we're not talking about how the stress affects our immune system. Yeah.
And so that's something I can speak to. I have seen some conversations about that. There was a really like clickbaity Medium article about
leads.
Basically it was framed in a way that was, you know, the only thing scarier than the coronavirus is fear itself. And like, yeah, there is science behind that. There's some of our best studies about the interaction between stress and the body was a study on university students where they actually swabbed their saliva before, during, and after exam periods to mark cortisol levels, which is your stress, one of your stress hormones. And it showed that most university students have a huge dip in immune function around exam time, which is why most of them get sick right after exams, over Christmas holidays and over summer break. So there is like a really tenable relationship between stress and immune function. But I find most of the conversation about that has been almost furthering this scaremongering that's happening. And just making sure that you're not adding that to a very long list of things to worry about in your day. So yes, stress does affect your immune system, but I think adding that to a to-do list of things to be scared about, or things to be monitoring, or things to take like divisive action against right now, I think that's adding another stress to your life.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm like, I'm doing little meditations and like visualizing, and that might help some people. Yeah. And, you know, going for a walk that we're allowed right now. Yeah. Will help some people. And also like just drinking the glass of wine will help some people. And, you know, and there's like, you know, there's lots of things that are going to help us through this, but realizing that being constantly freaked out is not going to help.
Yeah. And so I think,
and that's where you're coming from not watching the news media and, you know, taking care of yourself.
Yeah. And I think that kind of, I'm looking at my notes, which we haven't talked about any of them, but that's actually, I've preferred this. So But like the crux of what I really wanted to say in this conversation is like, you are living right now. We are all living in, like, none of us have ever experienced anything like this. It is scary. You're in it right now. So embarking on a brand new path of coping mechanisms right now might not actually be the best thing for you. Trying something new and different.
So just throw this out then.
Yeah, any of the good stuff you were trying to do, just don't do it. No,
Just
that's
don't
not.
do it at all.
Just
Okay,
don't do
great.
it. Just sit in your bed. It's fine. No, but I think when we're talking about coping and we're talking about practices and we're talking about things we can do to mitigate the stress response, it's important to look at what you already have some experience in. And look at what your coping mechanisms already are. So if your coping mechanisms are maybe not so healthy, like having more than a glass of wine, or, you know, lashing out at people, or wherever you're at, looking at the ones that are unhealthy, and then looking at stuff you already know that is healthy for you. So if you're not someone who's ever had a meditation practice, this isn't the moment to dive deep on meditation and start doing big ones. It might be the time to dip your toes. If you have a little bit of experience, it might be time to explore something a little bit new. But I would look to what you're already familiar with. And that's, I think, goes back to this familiarity of faces, familiarity of scenarios. Leaning on what you already know is really
And how
important.
about if they know nothing? How about if,
So,
like, let's, we're talking about people who lived life working. Like,
yeah,
that was their thing.
that's
you know?
their thing.
So
So
maybe
routine would be a great one, and you can distill it down to like the simplest thing. If you're someone who loved to go dancing on the weekends, keep dancing. Make time every day to do a little kitchen boogie or whatever works. If you're someone who maybe years ago had experience in martial arts or exercise or those sorts of things, lean back on those things that you already know or already have known. If you're someone who already has some experience doing art or music or those sorts of things, lean on those. I think one of the best things we can do right now is not add things to our life, not adding this pressure to perform or to keep going or to power through, but instead sensing into what we already know and what our body is already telling us and trying to go from there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And the other research that I was looking into, and now again, this is unprecedented times, but this was people who've had heart attacks and big, huge life experience changes. So the self-care Claire was designed around the relaxation response. So it's, you know, like not getting rid of stress. We know we're going to be in that fluctuation of stress on a constant, whether it's going to be for hours or, you know, like days.
Yeah.
But giving ourselves the idea of taking down that fight or flight. Sometimes, right? So
yeah.
Let me just see, like they're talking of like just getting into the diaphragmatic breathing, and that might be brand new, but do you think that would be necessarily a good thing to teach someone who doesn't know what it is?
And so learning breathwork can be a really powerful tool. I would add the caveat that if you haven't done breathwork before, working with an expert, whether it's a yoga teacher or someone specifically trained in breathwork, just because anytime we're sensing into our body, maybe for the first time, there can be other traumas or other histories or other pockets of stress that come out of nowhere that we didn't even know needed to be unpacked, kind of thing.
Right.
And so suddenly bringing that up in the middle of all this is kind of where I get hesitant about those practices. But there are, like, there's so many resources right now of people doing things like this, you know, and that's where that local network comes in again as well. So if you want to practice breath work, connecting with someone in your community who probably has a little bit of time or a little bit of energy or a little bit of wherewithal to work with you in a way that otherwise wouldn't be available, is a cool opportunity. I don't quite have the word.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And moving your body too, like, not to plug it again, but even like small little walks in nature that has also been, you know, research, even just the background that I have right now can even a sense of calm, you know.
Looking at pictures of plants has been shown to improve healing time. So any nature connection you can do is amazing. And that's a kind of non-invasive way. And there's no pressure there, right? You literally just look at some plants.
Right. So finding a relaxation response for yourself. That's the key, I think, right now, is to find something that helps you relax, takes you out of that fight or flight, not knowing, like, not saying that we're not here to heal, but we're here to felicitate. Again, not a doctor. And obviously not a linguist. Facilitate just ideas that, you know, you can. Am I frozen?
You're back. You're good. Okay. Facilitate ideas is the last I got.
Okay, facilitate ideas that, you know, could be useful, like whatever they can be, you know. So we're just giving you little bits of tools to see if any of these work. And in the next few days,
non-prescriptive, but
non-prescriptive. Yeah. This is a suggestion. Yeah. You know, take a child's pose, suggestion. You know, diaphragmatic breathing, suggestion. But learning, like, thank you for teaching us about, like, it's okay. Like, all of this, we don't know. Like, this is going to be a great time for people like you too, Terran, to, like, learn how people are going to get through this.
Yeah.
Really.
And what's been interesting for me is, the clarity that's coming out of it is, like, people who have maybe been ignoring their bodies and their body's needs for their whole adult life now are suddenly just at home with yourself for extended periods of time. And so just learning what it is to be in your body again, I think, is something that's happening on a massive scale. And I think we really do push those feelings away and push that down. And we're taught to, like, that's not on you or on me. That's something we're taught, like, from the time we have to ask to go to the bathroom at school straight through till our meals being scheduled as adults. Just being at home in your body for maybe the first time ever is going to be a rocky experience for a lot of people. And so knowing that is a process, and congratulations for being on that process. Like, if you're watching this and if you've gotten this far, there's a good chance you're really interested in reconnecting with your body and reconnecting with yourself. And that in of itself is an amazing thing. Maybe that's the only thing you take from this week or this month, but that's step one for then, you know, a few months from now going to step 2 to step 3.
There was another article I read about, like, creating a foundation. This right now is, you're creating a foundation. We're not in a sprint, we're in a marathon. And know that, like, a marathon, you need time, and it's okay right now. And this is what we've been given, which is a gift, I say, is that we've been given time to realize, to really, you know, go deep or not go deep, but to listen to when you want to wake up, when you want to eat, when you don't want to eat, when you want to sleep, when you want to drink water, when you don't want to drink water, when you want to be outside, when you don't want to be outside.
Yeah. And I think
taking that time.
Yeah, and I think that in of itself could be a project of self-care, is just like, what does my body do when it has all the time to do it?
No constraint.
Yeah. So, and, you know, letting your body process stress as it comes up. Something that I've been reading a little bit about is it's like the shake, rattle, and roll process, I think that's what it is called, but it was taught to doctors during the HIV and AIDS crisis. And this is especially good for frontline workers, or anyone who maybe is the opposite, where they don't have any time because they're really going for it, caring for other people. Is a lot of the time the way our body processes stress or trauma is through shaking. And I find it really interesting that a lot of rituals and dance and spiritual practices have shaking or jumping in them. And so one of a major thing I would advise to people is if you feel your body starting to shake, like if you get the shakes, anyone who's familiar with an anxiety response, it will be familiar with a shake response. Finding somewhere safe and comfortable and warm to let your body shake it out, and not pushing that away or pushing that down, which can be really scary. Not gonna lie, that's a scary thing to do. It's a scary thing to have happen. But allowing your body to shake it out gives your body somewhere to put that stress response that's firing all the way from your top to your toes. So yeah, just that might be, for a lot of people, that might be the first time you really notice your stress response in your body. Or you might notice, I mean, like my hair is falling out like no tomorrow. That's definitely part of my stress response. Maybe your appetite has changed significantly in the last 2 weeks. Maybe the number of trips to the bathroom that you're taking have changed significantly in the last few weeks. Maybe rashes or acne have started to come up, or indigestion. Those are all hints at what's happening inside of your body. And so allowing yourself a little time to accept or acknowledge those goes a long way for just affirming to your body that it has the space to process this.
And we have the space to explore.
Yeah.
Those things are, we put so much energy into control. And right now it's completely out of control.
Yeah.
So, you know, shaking is an amazing one. And also knowing that that shaking can release a lot of shit.
Yeah.
You know, and that's super fun. Also, like, you know, there's a euphoria when you shake, and it could be, you can do it yourself too, like a manual.
Yeah, you can like actively
and
shake.
I'll give links. Mike Massey does a great class. My friend Lisa
Awesome.
Greenbaum also does a trauma release shaking class, which is amazing. And all of these things, like, so there's lots of different variations that we're going to talk about in the next few days.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see all the stuff.
Yeah, and I'm really excited that you're on the journey with us.
Yeah.
So we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, we'll do
keep
more.
Smiling at each other.
Face to face, except not crosstown face to face. I know.
We will have Revel soon.
Yeah. I am so excited for that day.
We will hug it out when we can. Eventually. So it's also, I'm so appreciative, and that's another thing that I give gratitude every day for the simple things. I have gratitude that I get to see you on Zoom. I am gratitude for your prompts and your posts and all of your amazing information and the fountain of knowledge that you have for everybody.
Thank you. I'm grateful for you for facilitating everything. And I guess my 2 cents would be, don't add any new habits except gratitude. If you're going to add anything right now, if you're going to add any practice and you're not sure, if you're really at rock bottom and can't even get it.
Well, you can add self-care with Claire. You don't have to.
You can add self-care with Claire. You can add some yoga. No, but if you're really, really, because some people are really, really struggling right now, and if the only thing you can add is a gratitude practice, that's like, that's great.
I definitely, and you don't have to write it down, because that also stresses me out.
Yeah.
But you can walk around on your walks that you're given, and like, just like, I am grateful for this green grass. I'm grateful for, blue sky. I am grateful that I get to like come home to my family.
Yeah.
There's like, and it's really fascinating what my gratitude has become.
Yeah.
How simple it is. I'm grateful that there was like white flour at the grocery store.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for toilet paper, because some people are crazy, like
the toilet paper thing.
It's weird. But I'm grateful for the knowledge that most people think it's fucking weird,
Yeah.
So there's thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Well, you have the best day.
You too. It's sunny.
And okay, I love you. And we'll see you soon. Oh, are we doing full moon?
Yes, I have to talk to Nicole to figure something out, but hopefully. Yes.
Yeah.
There will at least be a meditation. I'll at least do a meditation.
Okay.
So yeah, the full
Okay.
moon is
Yes.
Tuesday.
Okay. I love it. Full moon's on Tuesday.
Tuesday, I believe. Yeah.
Okay. Then we'll get that out to everybody.
Cool. All right.
Okay. Bye, honey.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
How do I?